Before we start today's episode, I want to frame a question that more and more people are quietly asking themselves. What if financial freedom isn't just about how much money you make, but where you live and how your money is structured? Over the past decade, millions of people have started exploring life outside of the United States. Some are chasing a better lifestyle, others want to stretch their dollars further, and some are simply looking for more freedom, geographic, financial, personal. But here's the reality most people don't realize until it's too late. Moving abroad doesn't mean the system stops following you. In fact, America is one of the only countries in the world that taxes its citizens no matter where they live. That means if you move to Bali, Portugal, Thailand, Costa Rica, the IRS may still have a claim on your income, your investments, and your retirement. And that's where things start to get complicated. Because once you start living internationally, you're dealing with cross-border taxes, foreign bank reporting, different retirement rules, and a financial system that most people were never taught how to navigate. In today's episode, our guest Jimmy Miller spent more than 25 years helping Americans who want to live and retire globally. He works with expats, international families, and people who want to design a life that isn't tied to one single country. In this conversation, we're going to unpack the hidden financial rules of living abroad, from tax traps that can quietly cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to strategies that could allow you to legally reduce or even eliminate taxes in retirement. If you've ever thought about living overseas, building a global life, or simply protecting more of the wealth you're working so hard to build, this episode is going to open your eyes. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Financial Freedom Podcast. From Bali, I've got Jimmy Miller, a cross-border financial planner for expats and mobile retirees living globally. It's going to be a really interesting conversation around diversifying abroad globally, taxes, things you should be aware of, passport diversifications. He's the author of Divorce the IRS, something all of us would love to do. Happy to have him on. Jimmy, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Briefly introduce yourself.
My name is Jimmy. I'm a financial advisor with Baobab Wealth Management. Been doing this 25 years. I specialize in working with global citizens, American expats that want to live, work, adventure, retire, travel overseas, cross-border families, Americans married to somebody from another nationality. I'm married to a German citizen. Spent more than half of my life outside of America. I'm American myself. I've lived this lifestyle myself, know all the financial challenges that come with dealing with taxes across borders, all the extra IRS filings, financial planning considerations that you need to be thinking about when you're going to live a life offshore.
To start it off, one of the biggest questions on my mind is, planning to do this, why are people planning to live overseas? What are some of the reasons people come to you for?
Yeah, great question. The myriad of reasons, as you can imagine. It's getting more and more popular. There's not many financial planning companies that specialize in helping people go overseas. Some people are just looking to escape America because they're not happy with the direction of America and the political scene. I get quite a lot of that. A lot of people are looking to retire overseas. They've always dreamed of retiring in Italy or Europe, Australia, lots of places around the world because of the culture, because people want to stretch their dollars further in certain parts of the world. Tim Ferriss made the lifestyle arbitrage idea quite popular with his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, about a decade ago now. I got people looking to move to Asia, Thailand, Bali to stretch their dollars farther. For a myriad of reasons, people are looking to work, live, retire overseas these days.
Fascinating. If someone were to consider living abroad, what are some of the considerations they need to take into consideration when starting this process?
Yeah, the big question, a lot of things to consider. It's always best to consider these things before you've left America. A lot of people come to me specifically for taxes. They want a side-by-side comparison of, say, what it would look like if I stayed retired in America and just traveled to Europe, or if I became a tax resident, say in Italy, France, or wherever their dream destination is going to be. A lot of countries tax people more heavily than America does. There's usually a cost to live overseas in retirement in certain locations. People are seeking out what that cost is so they can make a good decision for themselves on whether that's worth it to them to pay those extra taxes. It's not just the extra taxes, it's other things people don't think about. Most countries around the world don't recognize the Roth IRA as tax-free. So although you've done a really great job of saving tax-free in America, that account may be fully taxed in the country you're thinking about going to. The other thing to consider is that you need to learn about the reporting requirements if you're going to live, work, retire overseas. Once you go overseas, you'll need to set up things like a bank account. You need to be careful of what you do and don't invest in overseas. There's reporting of foreign bank accounts back to the IRS. There's different reporting for foreign assets overseas. Learning all that before you go with eyes wide open, understand what your obligations are as an American citizen. America is the only country in the world that taxes its citizens worldwide. Even if you don't live in America, you still have to file a tax return in America. Unlike most countries in the world. My wife is German. If she leaves Germany and she's not using the fire department's police and roads, she can deregister from the system and she's not liable for taxes there unless she has a business or earning income inside of Germany. America is not like that. If you leave and plan to never return, unless you give up your passport, you're going to need to file a tax return. If you're working overseas, there is some relief. The foreign earned income exclusion, foreign tax credit can help with your U.S. taxes. You're still required to file a U.S. tax return. And in most cases, pay taxes as well, even if you're not in America.
What are the popular destinations that people come to you that are friendly in terms of a tax perspective?
If somebody's going overseas to stretch their dollar, those are the type of people that are looking for places that are more tax efficient. That would exclude most of Europe. The EU is a higher tax zone than America. For tax efficient places, I see people going to Central America, Costa Rica. Asia is a very popular destination, Thailand, Bali, Vietnam. There's other places for people who are working and not retiring. Dubai is famous for being tax-free.
My brother married a Korean national and she gets health insurance for dirt cheap. Obviously, their healthcare system's probably much better than ours here. And I know people are not marrying much these days. What is the advantage of partnering or marrying someone non-American for tax purposes or passport diversification?
It's a great question. I don't know if I would say there's advantages to it because it makes your life considerably more complex to take advantage of that. So when you marry somebody from another nationality, first thing you need to decide is the plan to come back to America and live or stay overseas. The routes that people take there are quite different. If you're going to stay overseas, then getting something like a B2 visa for your non-American spouse so they can travel back, not on S-10B, so restricted in the States, is usually the way to go. If they're not a green card holder or a U.S. citizen, they don't have the obligation to pay taxes in America. If the American spouse puts them on their tax return, which was legal, they get double their standard deduction, which could be a benefit. Then that makes the non-U.S. spouse's income taxable in America if they're included on the tax return since they're married. So in an instance where you might marry somebody that's not working, that could be a real tax benefit because you can do married filing joint. You can use their standard deduction. They don't have income to report for tax purposes in America, and that can be beneficial. But if they're working, depending on how much they make, it might not be beneficial to have to report their income in America and pay tax on it. That's a consideration for sure. If they go to become a green card holder, then they're become a U.S. person for tax purposes. And regardless of where they are in the world, they'd be treated like a U.S. citizen for tax purposes, just wouldn't be able to vote with a green card. That's the path then to citizenship. It's getting rare that just marrying somebody from another country gives you access to the passport. It depends on the country. It comes with stipulations like investment living in that country, passing a language test in that country. Marrying a non-U.S. citizen can be a path towards another passport, but it's not as easy as just marrying somebody and being able to get a passport in their country. Unlike America, it's easier after a certain period of time, 3 or 5 years, depending on where you come from and how you qualify, you can gain U.S. citizenship by marrying a U.S. citizen.
Follow-up question, is American passport still very valuable? Are you seeing somebody contemplate renouncing their citizenship and living abroad? Where do visas come into play?
Yeah, I talk to people all the time considering renouncing their U.S. citizenship. It's a process. If you have a green card, it's very easy to give it up. But if you're already a U.S. citizen, it's a little work to renounce. You need to have another passport in place before you do that. You're giving up a lot of things to renounce your U.S. citizenship. It's still a fairly strong, if not the best passport in the world, depending on how you rank it. There's lots of ranking things out there. My German wife likes to joke with me all the time that she can actually visit more countries around the world visa free with her German passport than I can with my American passport. Then I remind her that she can only go to China for 90 days on her passport, and I go for 10 years on mine. It depends how you rank the passports on how valuable they are, but the American passport is still very valuable, regardless of how you feel about America at the current time and your patriotism. Most of the world would love to have a United States passport and come live the American dream. It's still a land of opportunity for sure, without a doubt. Millions of people play the green card lottery every year. I have clients that won the green card lottery from Germany. Every year they put in for that chance to get one of the million spots in the green card lottery. They got it. They did their green card for 5 years and they're U.S. citizens.
Quick pause here. If this episode is making you rethink how your income is structured, that's intentional. Information doesn't create freedom, structure does. At the end of this episode, I'm going to show you how to diagnose whether you're building leverage or just scaling complexity. Let's get back into it. I've heard stories on social media where Americans are highly sought after marriage partners internationally because of the American passport. Shifting the conversation, what are tax time bombs and why do they matter so much for expats?
They matter for everybody. I do a lot of tax planning. I'm not a CPA. I don't file taxes, but I do a lot of tax planning through financial planning for my clients. I wrote a book called Divorce the IRS. It's mostly for Americans, but there's a couple chapters for expats. A lot of it bleeds over into the expat world as well. I teach people some of the tax traps that the IRS has set up for people that most people don't learn about until it's too late. I talk about investing in tax-free accounts like the Roth IRA instead of pre-tax accounts. I make the case in the book that every time you put money into a pre-tax account, like a traditional IRA or a 401k, you're not really getting a tax deduction. You're really taking a loan from the IRS. Because when they give you that small tax deduction, you put $100 in, you're in the 20% tax bracket. You get an extra $20 on your paycheck. It's really a loan from the IRS because now the IRS has a lien on your 401k or your IRA. And you're going to owe that tax back. In most cases, you're going to owe more because the account's supposed to grow for you. If that $100 turns into $200 and you take it out in retirement and you're still in that 20% tax bracket, you're going to owe $40 on that $20 you originally got. And so that's why I call it taking a loan from the IRS. Taking money out of those pre-tax accounts triggers a lot of other taxes in retirement that people don't realize till later in life. If you're over that provisional income threshold, take too much out of pre-tax accounts, you can trigger taxes on your Social Security. You can bump yourself up in Medicare costs. I talk about paying taxes from the grave, the spousal, the widow's penalty, where when one spouse passes away and the other spouse inherits all the accounts, but they drop to the single tax brackets and they pay even more taxes as a widow than they did as a married couple. So the book outlines this whole progression of how taxes unfold through somebody's life, including RMDs, and how the government takes back all those taxes and you still even pay those taxes from the grave. And the things that you can do to set yourself up financially along the way, generally using Roth accounts. I'm a big fan of Roth accounts to avoid these tax time bombs and set yourself up for that tax-free income and lower provisional income when you hit the retirement years.
Your book, Divorce the IRS, it sounds based on your response, very difficult. How can you actually divorce the IRS before you retire?
And let's say, take a real simple scenario to explain it. Let's say that you, Dr. Lou, you put all your money during 30 years of working as a doctor into your traditional 401k pre-tax. You want all those tax deductions along the way. You get those tax deductions in your paycheck over your 30 years. You probably don't save them. You just use them in your lifestyle. The only thing that I do different, we work at the same place, we put into the same 401k, we put into the same mutual funds, except I put into the Roth 401k. When we both get to retirement, make math easy, let's say we have $1 million each, but all of your $1 million is fully taxable as you take it out, and all of mine is tax-free as I take it out. Now you get Social Security and I get Social Security, let's say they're equal. You'd get $30,000 of Social Security, you take $50,000 out of your 401k. Now, the money you take out of your 401k in retirement is going to be fully taxable at ordinary income rates because you're over the provisional income threshold. 85% of your Social Security is going to be taxable. So you're going to have $80,000 of income, and most of it is going to be taxable. I'm going to take the same $50,000 out of my Roth IRA. It's going to be completely tax-free. Because it's tax-free, that doesn't tick me over the provisional income threshold. My Social Security is also completely tax-free. and I have the full $80,000 in retirement with no taxes whatsoever. In that example, I've divorced the IRS. I don't owe any tax on my Social Security. I don't owe any taxes on my withdrawals from my Roth IRA. I owe zero in federal and state taxes. I'm still going to pay taxes because there's hidden taxes everywhere. I talk about that in my book as well. There's taxes on my cell phone bill. My utilities are taxed. There's tax when I put gas in my car, when I buy an airplane ticket. You can't avoid those unless you go totally off grid. But when it comes to federal and state taxes, you can divorce the IRS in retirement and pay no taxes if you plan for it properly.
Sounds like the way you described it is tax efficient retirement accounts. Next question I have for you is, where does the line between the legal and the letter of the law blur between what you do? Do you help with tax planning for living abroad? If someone that was wanting to take advantage of geo arbitrage, would they go to you or would they go to a lawyer, or both?
Both, depending on the size of their accounts. For an average American, somebody who saved $500,000 to $5 million, generally a financial planner that specializes in tax efficient or tax-free investing, who has experience with overseas, can handle their investments, their tax planning, working along with a CPA, generally 2 CPAs, one in America and one overseas in the country that they're in. When you get beyond that, and if you're married to a non-US citizen, that's where attorneys generally come in. Non-US citizen spouses don't get the unlimited marital deduction. When one spouse passes, there could be a lot of estate tax problem. You need things like the Q-Dot trust and other trust types so you can take advantage of passing your money to a non-US spouse without that 40% estate tax. Those are the general ranges.
Next question I have is, where does real estate fall into the category of tax planning when clients work with you?
I get that one a lot. It's popular. People want to have rentals to diversify, or they like owning things like that. Rentals are generally not tax efficient in retirement. Everybody, when they have rentals, they enjoy that depreciation when you're collecting your rent, as long as you got good renters. Depreciation is really nice. It's amazing how many people I talk to that don't realize that if you sell that house someday, and most retirees in my experience do, because becoming a landlord at some point as you get older becomes too much, or if you want to go overseas, trying to manage that property from overseas becomes too much. Property management costs a lot of money, it eats into your ROI quite a bit. You have to recapture that depreciation up to 25%. And that, when you have to pay that big tax bill, recapturing that depreciation at the end of a rental, that eats into that ROI considerably. When you consider something like real estate in general over long periods of time, I know there's probably some real estate fans out there, it doesn't appreciate as much as the stock market. I joke around, I've never had to put a new roof on my S&P 500 index fund. It's more liquid to invest in something like ETF than the real estate. The other thing, to answer your question, real estate rental income is part of provisional income. It's amazing how many people want to divorce the IRS. They've done really good with saving in a Roth IRA, but their rental income puts them over the provisional income threshold. Half of Social Security is counted, but half generally doesn't get you over the provisional income threshold. But if you add a little bit of rental income, even if you've got all your money in Roth, that's going to make your Social Security taxable. When you look at the ROI of when your property's vacant, all the expenses of managing the house, putting repairs into the house, the depreciation recapture at the end, then if that house makes 85% of your Social Security taxable, that adds another $6,000 to your tax bill, which is about the average for a couple in America who go over that provisional income threshold. That really kills the ROI of that rental property.
One question from the audience is, where do gold, silver, if you get questions around the coin?
Yeah, so there's 2 big questions there. I'm not a fan of investing in precious metals or in cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrency is a very new asset. The money I manage is people's serious money. It's got to get into retirement. It's got to last them a lifetime. Generally, I don't do things that are so volatile like cryptocurrency or so new. The plans that I build, the things that I invest clients in, are the tried and true things that have always worked over the last 100 years. Generally, clients feel more comfortable with that. I'm not saying you can't speculate in some cryptocurrency on the side with your Coinbase account. I'm all for it. If you love it, you follow it, you like it, you think it's the next best thing. But in your serious money accounts, maybe someday it has a place. I don't think we're quite there. Coin dropped quite a bit. A small allocation really affects Gold and silver, I'm not a super fan. They're also quite volatile. Very recent history has shown they're not managed. They don't produce interest. They don't do anything. They're not taxed efficiently. Inside of an IRA or a Roth, that's not such a big deal, but it's amazing how many people buy gold in their regular investment accounts and then realize the IRS treats it as a collectible, not as an investment asset. They're paying ordinary income taxes on the gains, if they do get gains in those assets, and not long-term capital gains rates. So you have to make a lot more in gold or silver just to break even as a regular type of investment. That makes gold and silver less attractive, in my opinion. Somebody really wants to hold it, a very small allocation inside of a qualified account can work.
Nations or countries where privacy, client privacy is big. How do these all play into the work that you do with clients?
Secrecy laws. I get people all the time that want to move their money to Isle of Man, or Cyprus, or Switzerland, things like that. When FATCA passed in 2010, that made it really difficult to do all that stuff overseas. It's not illegal to invest overseas, but the IRS has made it very difficult and erroneous with tax filings to report your overseas holdings. If you invest in the VOO, the S&P 500 Vanguard fund in Europe, even though it's still Vanguard, still the same manager, still the S&P 500, it's not a U.S. legal-based fund. The IRS basically takes half of anything you make in it compared to the long-term capital gains rates you get if you bought the same fund in America. Moving your money overseas has become quite hard. Almost all financial companies overseas are going to report you back to America if they know that you're a U.S. citizen.
And how about
fine art? I get that as well. A lot of very rich people did fine art for a while as a tax benefit to themselves. They swept up a lot of the average investor into investing into fine art. I'm not a fan of fine art. I don't find that it has a place in the serious money in the range of people that I deal with. If you've got $100 million, you probably want to diversify into those asset classes. But for the average American citizen that's saved $1 million, fine art probably doesn't have a place in the portfolio.
You're currently in Bali. Is that more geopolitical or is that a lifestyle choice? A lot of my friends are nomads, attest to Bali, South America, Southeast Asia. What is the purpose or advantage of living in Bali?
I'm here for a month to see clients down here in the Southern Hemisphere. I go up to South Korea next to see clients, and then back to the States. In the fall, we go over, base ourselves out of Spain for a bit so I can see my Southern European clients. I'm here for a short period of time. This is where you caught me in my journeys. My clients all over the world. Most of my meetings are done through Zoom, but we travel full-time as a family and meet new people. Through our travels, we see our clients along the way.
How can people check out your book, Divorce the IRS Before You Retire? How can people connect with you to ask more questions?
The book is sold everywhere, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all the book places. My website is a good place to start. It's baobabwealth.com. So baobab is, most people recognize it as a tree of life from The Lion King. The baobab tree is from Africa. I was born in Zambia, so the tree holds a special place in my heart. It's one of the largest, longest living, strongest trees in the world. It's got that unique shape. I use it as my logo. I tell people that investing is like planting a tree. If you plant it and leave it alone through all the seasons over a long period of time, it will grow into something beautiful, just like investments do. That's why I use the baobab tree as my logo. Baobabwealth.com for US-based, Baobab Wealth abroad for Americans going overseas are the two websites you might want to check out.
Thanks so much, Jimmy, for coming on, your expertise. Keep up the great work.
I appreciate it. It's been great to talk to you.
Let's zoom out. If you're a physician, founder, or high-income professional, and you feel like you're working harder every year, but not structurally freer, you're not alone. The mistake isn't effort, it's architecture. This show exists to help you convert expertise into scalable leverage, faster and with fewer expensive missteps. Here's the diagnostic I mentioned before. If your income requires your constant presence, if your capital isn't compounding outside your profession, if your highest value talent is doing low value tasks, you don't have a growth problem, you have a leverage design problem. And if you want to fix it with clarity instead of guesswork, I offer a limited number of one-on-one leverage strategy sessions each month. We audit your income model, capital deployment, authority positioning, and structural bottlenecks, and design your highest return move. If you're serious about compressing years into months, the link to apply is below.